Hey everyone, Sindhu here. So we're approaching the end of May, which means we're approaching the end of Asian Pacific Islander Daisy American Heritage Month. And in honor of this month dedicated to recognizing Asian American identities, heritage, and history, I'm releasing two videos that speak to some of the challenges that Asian Americans experience in the workplace that hinder our upward movement into leadership roles. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the model minority myth, which is a faulty ideology that only works to harm cross-racial solidarity between Asian and other BIPOC communities, and also works against the collective success of Asian Americans. So let's begin at looking at some demographic information about Asian Americans. Today, Asian Americans account for roughly 24 million people, which is about 7% of the total population. Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial group. In fact, from 2000 to 2022, the Asian population grew about 105%. By 2060, it's estimated that there will be over 46 million Asian Americans living in the US. So you can expect to see the presence of this ethnic group drastically increase in our society and within our workforce. One thing to keep in mind is that we are an extremely diverse identity group, representing over 20 different countries with diverse languages and religions and traditions and customs. Asian Americans are a multifaceted identity group, but we do have shared experiences of stereotypes, racism, nativism, and xenophobia that have been illustrated in popular culture, in US laws, and anti-Asian hate. Specifically, we share the experience of being stereotyped as the model minority. So the model minority is a constructed idea that Asian Americans are the model for all racially minoritized groups. So let's dig in to learn a little bit more about the model minority stereotype and why this ideology can create a roadblock for Asian Americans to advance into leadership roles. The term model minority was introduced by a sociologist and made popular in the 1960s as a counter-argument to the claims that systemic racism and oppression impeded the success and upward mobility of African American people in this country. The idea was that Asian Americans have achieved success through their hard work and assimilation, and that the discrimination they experienced, like the Japanese internment or the Chinese Exclusion Act, did not impede their upward mobility. Because of that, African American people should look at this group as a role model and aspire to be more like them. So this mentality is uber problematic, and it erases 400 plus years of systemic racism that Black American communities have been subjected to. The model minority myth evolved into a weapon used against Black Americans in response to the Civil Rights Movement, which has and continues to pit Asian Americans against Black Americans, creating a barrier to cross-racial solidarity. It also erases the discrimination and the hardships that we face as Asian people. And this erasure is problematic because when we ignore these realities, policymakers ignore Asian populations in need. And these Asian groups in need don't get the services and the support they need, and the wide disparities that already exist amongst Asian Americans continue to persist with little or no attention. Without thinking critically, it's easy to think that the model minority stereotype is a positive one that would only be to the benefit of Asian Americans. So there are a lot of adjectives that are used to describe Asian Americans because of the model minority stereotype. For example, we're often thought to be obedient and subservient. We're thought to be perpetual foreigners. So regardless of the fact that Asian Americans have been in this country since the late 1500s, we are always foreigner and never American enough. We are rule-abiding, we are highly educated, we are submissive, we are hardworking. We are non-confrontational, we are rule followers, we're complacent, and we're self-sacrificing. So these may seem like very positive attributes and stereotypes that can only help with upward mobility and success. But these characteristics are not ones we typically associate with leaders, and they prevent others from seeing us as leadership potential. So the model minority myth has negative implications for the careers of Asian people, make us less likely to advance into leadership roles. There's been a lot of research done, and specifically one study done by the Ascend Foundation found that Asian Americans are most likely to be hired in white-collar jobs, but least likely to be promoted into leadership and management roles. So Asian people are overrepresented at the entry-level job or individual contributor roles, but this representation steeply declines as we move up the corporate ladder. There was a recent McKinsey study that found that Asian Americans represent 13% of entry-level employees, but that drops to less than 8% once we look at the C-suite level. So the challenges and the barriers of advancing into leadership is known as a phenomena called the bamboo ceiling, which I will be talking about in my next video. So stay tuned and feel free to share this video with leaders in your life who are committed to cultivating a more inclusive workplace experience for Asian Americans. And happy APITA month. Take care.